Ska vi se. Well, hello and welcome everybody to this breakfast session with Zacharias Sjöberg from Seber Medical. Welcome, Zacharias. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Great. So we have both some of our accelerator companies, but also incubator companies with us here today. But also I've also invited our advisors that we're working together so that we have the same view of this also from an advisory standpoint. So let's just have a quick round of everybody's who's here to see just your company name, and if you're a startup or something else, you can just say your name and company name and so on. So let's start with Ann-Sofie. And you're muted.
Yep. Hello, my name is Ann-Sofie Gustafsson, and I work as a development leader in the municipality of Karlstad in the health care department.
Great. And Marie Granander, who's actually with me here in the other front of the room.
My name is Marie Granander. I'm the project manager of the Swedish Initiative Digital Arena, and I'm also responsible for our focus area regarding quality assurance and regulatory requirements for health apps and digital tools related to health.
Great. And Maria Obed.
Yes, my name is Maria Obed and I run the company Hello Balance, and I've been with Digital Well before, so I'm here as an alumni, but also starting a new project as a startup, I would say, with a diagnostic tool for burnout.
Great, welcome. And Kerim.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kerim, and I'm representing Fluent by Nordic, a startup, and we are offering AI-powered interpretation and automated documentation in the governmental offices. Thank you.
Great. And Marie Bank.
Hello, Marie Bank, and I work at Innovation Coach in Region Värmland. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kevin.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin. I'm an entrepreneur from Sweden, developing a fitness platform to connect trainees with personal trainers in different sports. Thank you.
Welcome, Kevin. Yeah. And Daniel Malm.
Yes, representing a company called Frozen Toe. We have an application for managing drugs in healthcare sector. It's not a medical device, but interesting to listen in today.
Great, welcome. And Martin Bergstrand.
Yes, good morning. Martin Bergstrand is my name, and I'm working as a business advisor at alumni Företagspartner here in Värmland.
Welcome. And Tobias Norén. Muted. You're still muted. So
it's a beginner's mistake. I'm Tobias Norén. I'm the CTO of Happy. We're a service for rehabilitation and preventive exercise.
Yeah, great. Welcome. And Stefan Pettersson.
Good morning, everybody. Stefan Pettersson. I'm working together with Stefan Skoglund in Digital Well Ventures.
Our man in Oslo, yes. And we have another Norwegian participant here, Kristil. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. I'm Kristil and actually Stefan and I don't live far apart at all. I'm the CEO of Yoda Tech, and we connect people in healthcare mostly, but also in the police, how to give decision support when needed using different apps or head-mounted cameras.
Great, welcome. And Lisa Bergqvist.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lis Bergqvist. I'm a startup advisor at Digital Well Ventures and also responsible for the incubator program.
Welcome. And let's go to Nurani from Cognus.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Naraini. I'm the operations manager at Cognus Medical Solutions. So we are developing a mobile-based app, which is a dementia screening tool that is focused on early detection and facial recognition technology.
Excellent. Thank you. And Jonas Matting?
Yes, Jonas Matting. I also work for Digital Well Arena.
Amazing. And finally, Manuela from Globe Person.
Hello all, good morning. I'm Manjula. I'm working for a startup, Globe Person. It's a healthcare startup. Yeah, and we are part of this accelerator program.
Welcome. So I think that was everybody. We will hand over to Zacharias to do the presentation. I hope there will be time for questions and discussions in the end. I just want to say, from a startup point of view, it's very important to have a regulatory strategy. Just as you have other kinds of strategy, a go-to-market strategy, financial strategy, and so on, and perhaps an investor strategy and so on. And for companies in this field, you need to have a regulatory strategy as well, because this will influence you in many different ways. Sometimes not that much, depending on what you do, and sometimes very much. And you need to have a clear answer about that, and that's what we call the regulatory strategy. And MDR, as we focus on today, medical devices is of course one part of it, but there are other things as well, of course, to cover. It's so fascinating to actually talk with someone who's done the journey. That's what we love the most, to hear from someone who's actually done it and knows the don'ts and do's in these fields. And Zacharias is one of the best in this field, so it will be exciting to both hear your founder, a little bit about your story, but also the work that you've been doing and what you can, in what way you can support us. So welcome, Zacharias. I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Stefan, and great introduction. I mean, fully agree that the regulatory strategy is something that you need to think about very early on if you expect your product to actually be a medical device and fall under the MDR regulation. My plan was to go through a presentation. I will tell you a bit more about myself, a bit more about the journey. Then we will go into more of the regulatory pathway that we have used to get where we are today. And after that, I will open up for questions. Of course, there's a lot of dimensions that you could cover in a talk like this. So I will try to be relatively short, and then we can have a discussion afterwards to ensure that we can cover the stuff that is important for you guys.
Perfect. Sounds great. Let's get going.
Yes. There we go. Yes, and as Stefan said, I'm representing the company Seber Medical, and the application that we're discussing here is an application called C-Wound, which is a wound analytics engine to fuel wound healing. And I will cover a bit more the functionality of that and what class we are in the MDR. But as I said before, the focus here will be on our regulatory journey. A bit of background for how the project started. It's from the beginning a research project from Linköping University, where they the last 30 years have done research within the field of wound monitoring and wound assessment using a range of different methodologies, everything from laser Doppler, laser speckle to measure the perfusion in the skin, to applications where you use specialized cameras to actually make the same assessment as you could do with the laser. And in the end, this research project ended up actually becoming a pilot in the burn unit in Linköping, which is where we piloted an application called Burn-Eye, which is then a C-wound version, but for burns. But then all the nurses in the hospital told us that it's great what you're doing within burns, but if you could do it within hard-to-heal wounds, so leg ulcers, diabetic foot ulcers, and pressure ulcers, then that is a solution that we really want to use. So we CE-marked our first version of C-wound in February 2021, and that was then under the MDD regulation, which has a lot of similar requirements, but not the same as the MDR. And then after that, we have continued to work in our quality management system that we developed from to 2021. And now we are in the final stages with our notified body BSI that we're working with to actually CE-mark our next version of C-wound, which is then the C-wound 2.0, and that will be CE-marked as an MDR Class 2B device. But I'll cover a bit more about that. If you then look, okay, what is C-wound today? C-wound is the leading Nordic AI-powered wound analytics engine, tapping into a large or huge global market. So how come hard-to-heal wounds is such a large challenge in all developed countries? The first one is that there's a very high prevalence of these type of wounds. So you estimate that about 1% of the full population in all developed countries have an open hard-to-heal wound. Despite this, unfortunately, the clinical outcomes are relatively poor. And if you look at the quality registry, Riksår, which is the registry that we have in Sweden, they expect that if you treat these wounds in a perfect way, we could save 63% of the total cost and total healing time of these wounds. And if you then look at the financial part of things, hard-to-heal wounds are estimated to account for somewhere around 2 to 3% of the global healthcare budget, and are treated, of course, across care regimes, so everything from municipality care up to specialist care. And to be able to lower these costs by 63%, does, of course, have a huge impact on both the life quality of the patients, but also on the economical situation for the country. So what we have developed and how C-wound 2.0 looks, it's an AI-driven virtual wound care specialist that is called Jennifer, who's built to revolutionize wound care and wound management. In short, it does three things. It objectively evaluates the wound care practices. So as soon as you launch a C-wound in the operations, C-wound will on its own assess the quality of the wound care practice that the clinic or the municipality are managing. And it also provides recommendations on how to actually improve this further. The second thing it does is that it also optimizes the treatment for every patient. So the nurse or the assistant nurse use the application to capture an image of the wound and get all types of recommendations around how you should treat it, what dressing you should use, and how you can ensure that you heal it as quickly as possible. The last part it does is that it also supports the organization with simplified documentation and operational management to ensure that all manual tasks that are currently done are being removed from the day-to-day business. And if you look at the spread, of course, when we were part of Digital Well from a couple of years ago, and it spread quite a lot since then. So we have, of course, a lot of research partners across the nation and also in Norway. But if you look on the commercial side, which is the part in the middle, we can see that we've been part of around a bit over 20,000 wound dressings. We are customers in 15 regional areas, now close to 10,000 patient visits. And we're also, as you can see in Norway, the examination tools for all specialized nurses or nurses specializes in wound care in Norway. They have as an examination tool, task to monitor a wound with C-wound to ensure that they can actually track and see the effects of the interventions that they are doing. So that is a bit about the background of the company, and you're of course welcome to ask me questions about that later on. But then I guess why we're here is the question down to the right. Okay, but how did you go about CE-marking the product, and what was your overall strategy for actually accomplishing that without any external financing? Because we have not raised any capital up until now. And if you look at our journey, I described it briefly from the beginning, but we CE marked our first solution under MDD as a Class 1 medical device in February 2021. And before that, and during this 5-6 year journey, we have spent a lot of money on regulatory consultants and a lot of hours of work to ensure that we can develop a simple way of actually managing this, because we are not a startup with a lot of funds. So what we did from the beginning is that we first borrowed a quality management system from a larger company that we tried to adapt to our situation, which was something that I'm not really recommending, as large companies look a lot different than small companies do, which of course makes the processes a lot more tedious and a lot more cumbersome than they have to do or have to be. So what we did after the MDD certification is that we have worked continuously with actually developing this quality management system to ensure that it's a simple system that we can work day to day, and ensure that it does not require any head of regulatory or any person responsible for the regulatory compliance in that sense. Then we move 1 or maybe 2 years forward in 2022, 2023. We then developed further the quality management system, and the quality management system, for those who are not into this field, is the system that the company operates within and use for actually developing everything that's needed for the actual CE mark. So the quality management system is not part of the CE mark itself. It's more a certification that you have for the company to ensure that the company works in a way that allows them to have CE marked products on the market. So the second step that you see in the middle is that after we have developed our quality management system, so we were happy with it, we certified it according to ISO 13485, which is then quality management system for medical devices. And that we did with Svensk Certifiering, which is a Swedish body that facilitates this type of certifications. Parallel with that, we of course developed the new technical file, which is then part of the result of the quality management system that we have developed. And as we did that side by side with the quality management system, we then in beginning of or end of 2023, I would say, we applied for a notified body. We got accepted for BSI. And then the process with BSI is that they first go through all your documentation that you have for the quality management system, which they first do digitally, then they do the same thing when they come to your office, and they go through all the processes in that way. And after that, you send in your technical file, which then includes everything from the description of the device down to the post-market surveillance and the clinical trials that actually show that you have a good enough product to actually be on the market. And then they go through that, and then you have a couple of rounds of questions when you answer the questions to ensure that they are aligned with what everyone expects. And after that, you're allowed to put the product on the market. And we are, as I said from the beginning, we are in the final stages of doing that, and we are on our last round of questions, so to say. And I don't think we have to cover all of this, but all in all, there's a lot of policies and a lot of operational procedures, you can call them, that you need to follow in order to ensure that you have everything that is required to certify your quality management system under 13485, and to ensure that your product is actually good enough to be out on the market. And through this process, we have more and more focused on actually supporting other companies in doing the same journey as we are doing. So the thing that I show you here is something that we also work together with companies to actually ensure that we can implement this in their organization and ensure that they then have the processes that are required to actually ensure a swift way for the CE mark. And what we then offer these companies that we work with is all the required documentation for the ISO 13485 and for the MDR certification in a type of plug-and-play version. And the reason why I think that the plug-and-play version is of importance is that if we would redo our journey, this is exactly what we would be looking for. We wouldn't want to take a quality management system from a large company. We'd like to have a slim and easy quality management system that is workable and that you can actually work on in a day-to-day business or day-to-day fashion for all the employees in the small company. And what is very good with this system that I pitch here is that there's also a complete system that has been vetted externally, so you know that it's ISO 13485 certified already when you begin, and the only thing you have to do is implement it. And that also ensures that you can do all of this without having a head of regulatory. And we have a couple of companies that have passed this implementation phase, where Gera Solutions, which I guess also have a connection to Digital Well, if I don't misremember, where we implemented this in their organizations during 8 weeks to a significantly lower cost than would be required if you just take in the consultants straight away. I don't think we have to go through the team, and that was a bit what I was planning on covering, and looking forward to questions and to see if I can support you in any way.
Wow, thank you, Zacharias. We lost our mouths here when you said 8 weeks with Gera Solutions. Me and Maria. So, but can you tell us a little bit more about how that actually is possible? We know that Geras is a company that already had a lot of things prepared, of course, because they are a quite mature company, even if they're a startup. So, but can you tell us a little bit more how you actually did do that?
Yes, of course, I know Rickard from a couple of years back, and I know that they had been struggling with actually getting a quality management system that was working and that was easy to include all the developers and all the salespeople in the same processes. So what we do and what we have done is that we took all our steering documents and we implemented them one by one through their organizations, where the management were part of the implementation of the management processes. The development team was part of the design and development phases, and the post-market surveillance were part of the sales team were part of the post-market surveillance process. So we ensure that the full organization were part in all these type of in all these processes. Then our system that we support people with or companies with is developed twofold. So we have all these documents that you saw in the slide, which are then you could say PDFs or Word templates that are used for the things that are needed to be documented in that way in order to be a compliant system. Then we have also integrated our system and our day-to-day monitoring within Jira and Figma and GitHub if you want that, to ensure that everything that you document on a day-to-day business is actually what you would do if you even if you wouldn't have the quality management system. And that, I think, is a key in why it's so quick to implement this system compared to any other system. That it's not a lot of tedious work where you have to fill in a lot of templates. Everything is digitized and also controlled for within these support systems, which I think is something that we were looking for from the beginning.
Great. Very interesting to hear the practical way of doing this. I love that. So before we open up for questions from everybody, please prepare your questions. But I want to ask you also, because I know when we spoke that some of these companies have also got funding for this process through MedTech for Health, right? So is that opportunity still there? Do you know that? Will there be new money next year, or do you know anything about that opportunity to apply for funding for this kind of work via MedTech for Health or something else?
Yes, and I can take a step back before I answer that. I can of course say we have not raised any external funding or external financing in terms of hard money, but of course regulatory compliance is something that is very prioritized and should be very prioritized by, for example, Vinnova and MedTech for Health and these type of support, which I then of course see as a huge opportunity to actually create a competitive advantage for the companies that actually pursue this journey. If I could choose, of course, if your product does not need to be CE marked, especially if you don't need a class 2 device, you rather just a class 1 device, then there's still the opportunity under MDR to do this the CE mark by yourself, so you don't need to work with the notified body. And if you can not work with a notified body, that is of course something that I very much recommend, because working with a notified body is of course more tedious and it also costs a lot of money. So given the opportunity, I would very much still embark on the journey to ensure that you have a CE mark, but it also comes down to the strategy that you don't have to aim too high. If you're just a class 1 device, stay as a class 1 device and ensure that you have everything in place and then make the CE mark yourself. But with that said, of course, there's opportunities to finance this with money from any of these agencies. There is one that we have used, which is called or was called kompetensförstärkning in småföretag, which is something that I believe will continue up, and I think the first one will be in February, when is there not companies have the opportunity to get some support with actually embarking on this journey.
Yeah, great, thank you. I know Marie had a question, I think, but maybe someone else wants to start, or do you want to start?
I can start if not anyone else have a question before. But that is like earlier, my questions is regarding the process that is before the CE marking is in place. So it's regarding the research. And you said that you started your research journey quite early. And I saw on the slide that you have quite many research partners, which is very nice to see. But I wonder, is the research still ongoing? And at what point did you get the feedback that your level of research was enough? To get the okay stamp from the healthcare that you got enough evidence, enough research, you can walk to the next step or whatever. So yeah, it's because the how you interpret the research is different between the regions is my opinion and what I hear. So at what point did you see that, okay, now we have done enough research to kind of move on to the next level?
Yes, and I think that the question here is, I would assume that it's twofold. The first, I would say that, I mean, there's one requirement from the regulatory landscape, and then there's one requirement from the clinics, and unfortunately, those two don't really, or does not all the time go hand in hand. So, for example, the reason why MDR is created is that the requirements should be put from the regulatory standpoint on the solutions, and the clinics should not have to do their own pilots to ensure that the products do what they say they do. But still we can see that most of the organizations that we work with, they don't trust the regulatory stamp, so they still would like to do individual pilots to ensure that it also works on their data. So it's a bit of a mismatch, and I'm hoping that in the future the public sector and then the private healthcare sector will trust more in the regulatory stamp that the companies have, instead of reevaluating the same solutions over and over again. So that is something that I'm hoping for. And then in terms of when we felt that we had enough research and enough data, that is of course a different story. And my recommendation there is that there will be a range where some people want to see. We have potential customers that say, okay, we would like to see a study done on 10 primary care units, but they have to be in the same size and in the same geography as we have. That's the only way that we will trust it. But we also have customers where they say straight off that, oh, it's great that you have done this in a specialized clinic. We believe we can do it in the primary care unit as well. So I think that what we a lot have been focusing on is to ensure that we have done the research together with organizations, and that all the input from the organizations is actually transferred into our application. Because if you do it that way, then all the users that you are working with will also believe that the product is from a clinical standpoint is a good product. Then of course you have the data management and the legal side of things that you also need to have a strategy on. But from a clinical and research point of view, I think that it will depend. But it's always, if you want to claim something, you need to have the support to actually show that the product does what it is you say it does.
Okay, and so there is still ongoing research on C-wound for now.
Yeah, I mean it's a very interesting question as well. We still see ourselves as half of our organization is a research organization. So we continue doing research, and we also have all those partners that I showed on the slide, where we have everything from 1 to 6 PhD students continuing doing research. But the research that the research that we are supporting and that we want to work with is not primarily to evaluate the performance or precision in C-wound, because that has already been done, and that is something that we can already share. So what we want our nurses and assistant nurses and doctors, or if they are also part of it, what we want them to do is to see, okay, but with all this data and all this precise monitoring of wound healing, what can we say about what dressing are the best, or what interventions are the best, or how can we help the patient in actually ensuring that these wounds heal as quickly as possible. So we as a company, of course, want to develop the research, so it's not focusing on our solution, but okay, what can the users actually utilize our solution for? And most of the time we end up there, but we also have some nurses or assistant nurses that in their PhD thesis want to evaluate our performance compared to others, and that is of course okay as well, but it's not as interesting because we already know our performance, so to say.
Thank you, very good answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we had a question in the chat, and the question was, what has been the biggest challenge when you started?
And is that in terms of regulatory or just in general?
Yes,
regulatory.
I have asked you. Thank you, Zacharias. It's nice to follow your journey. And from the regulatory start, when you decided to start that, what has had the biggest challenge for you and the company?
No, it's a great question, and I think it's also the reason why I'm sitting here. I think that for me the most difficult part in the beginning was that first of all the transition to MDR had just started. No one knew what was going on. Then I went into the field and I didn't know anything about regulatory landscape in medtech. So first of all, I got this very large quality management system. I started reading up on all the standards, starting to hire consultants, which I didn't know exactly what they were going to do or not do, and then try to get all of that together to actually produce something that you believe that the regulatory agencies actually want to see. I think it's a very big and large question. I mean, more or less there are hundreds of standards that you could use. The question is, which one should you use, which one are relevant for you, and how can you ensure that when you follow all these procedures, how can you ensure that you actually have time to do any work? Because a very large challenge, I mean, a very large challenge in this is that if you make it the wrong way, you will need a full regulatory team to just ensure that you are compliant with all the with all processes that you need to have your product on the market. And what we always have tried to do is to make it as easy as possible. And as we still have our regular product, our main task here is not to sell a quality management system. It's to what we feel to pay back a bit and in a as cheap fashion as possible, and make sure that other companies can follow us.
Thank you, Zacharias. I can understand that.
Thank you. Martin, do you want to ask your question live? It's from the chat. Yeah.
Yes, I can do that. First of all, Zacharias, thank you for a good presentation. And my question is if you do have any experience of how the European MDR requirements comply with the corresponding requirements of the FDA on the US market. Have you even looked at to the US market and what they require? Or?
It's a good question, and the quick answer is no. We have not looked at the US market. So the only answer I can provide is more on a high level. And what I hear from the industry, and we've been working both with surgical equipment and within AI analytics, so to say. My personal view is that there is a big shift where you can see that companies usually saw international companies usually saw Europe as a good first market because the MDD requirements that were on the market were quite favorable for a lot of different products. So a lot of companies started there, and then they went to the US. Now I see a bit of a turn in my close sphere that we can see that there are some very significant players that actually decide not to even pursue the European market as the MDR requirements compared to FDA are very harsh especially in some areas, which then makes the companies question whether it's actually profitable to be in Europe or if they should just skip the European market and go straight to the US. So MDR is it is an endeavor, and I mean, when we started, I think the decision was that it should be implemented in 2024. Then they postponed it because one of the challenges that we have seen is that it was very difficult to find notified bodies that were actually accredited with the MDR capabilities. Now they are a bit more, but it's still a very large bottleneck. So we will see. Now it's, I think, 2027 and 2028 for some different type of products, but probably for the legacy products that are already out on the market, I think that this might actually be prolonged even more. But that's of course a personal view.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Great question. So more questions from the audience? So let's see. Maria, yeah?
Yes. Hello, thank you so much. It was great. It's way above my head, I have to admit. So I'm just really starting this new product and looking a little bit into what is possible and not. And we're touching into more of like possibly giving diagnose. And so that's why I was a little bit curious to be with today. So my question is really, how do you take the very first step to know whether your device, on what level and what step you have to take? When do you have to make a CE marking on your device?
It's a very good question, and maybe that's something that I should have started with. So thank you, Maria, for asking it. I mean, to decide if you're a medical device or not, there are a lot of check marks that you can search for on Google. I can also, of course, share the ones that I believe are the best. But I also think that, I mean, if you just have the energy or what do you say, the guts to open the MDR 2017, if you go to one of the appendices, you will have the rules, the classification rules that you see, and don't be afraid to open all these type of documents. They are usually they're broad, but they're also quite easily written. So open the MDR, go to the classification rules, and they will have 21 rules, I think, where we just set that up in an Excel, and then you go through one by one and you say, okay, is this rule applicable to us or not? And that is also the first part of your description of the device that you need to have for the CE mark, where you have the exact same checklist, and then you just fill out, okay, rule 1 is not applicable to us because I don't know, I can't remember that, but we don't handle fluids or blood. Then you have the second part and say, okay, is rule 2 relevant for us? And then you go through rule 2 and you say, okay, is it or not? And then, of course, you will get down into questions whether or not you are giving a diagnosis or how you see it. And of course, everything is up for discussion here. So you just need to say, put your foot down and say, okay, what do we believe? Then, of course, it is good to confirm that with a regulatory expert. And as I said before, I don't have that background, so I'm happy to recommend some consultants that we've been working with. But just make sure that you know exactly what you want to ask and what answers you want, because otherwise it can become quite expensive quite quickly.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but really good. It's so interesting to, before you meet the consultant, know what questions to ask, but also what kind of answers you want to have. Then go to the consultant. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I mean that's but that's the same in most areas, I guess. That if you want to know what you want to have, especially in this type of field. And then there's a totally different discussion, but also if and when you want the regulatory consultants, as there's everything from very loose canons to very rigid, old-fashioned printed paper type of consultants. It's very important that you choose someone that you believe in, if you want to go down that route. But just to be, I mean, if you're a bit interested in actually pursuing this process yourself, I'm 100% confident, as we have done, that you can manage it by collaborating with me and my colleague Carl, and we can help you implement it, a system that works great. And then maybe it's enough to have a couple of hours with support on specific key things that you would like to address, so to say.
Cool. All right. I'm just curious here. I know that Tobias, I don't know if you're with us here, but it looks like that. I know you've done a lot of research for Habby of what to do and not to do in this field. Do you have any comments or thoughts or questions to Zacharias based on your pre-work?
Well, I think it's very dependent on what kind of solution you have. I think it's hard to compare Habit to Seawound in that case. But we have, like for now, we have had consultants and made a statement that we are not a medical device, but we have development plans that make us a medical device. So I guess for when at least when it comes to software, maybe one way is to like develop those features that are not in the MDR field or is not a medical device and wait with the ones that actually are. But for some implementations, I know, like if the core ID is a medical device, then it's very hard. But for us, it's more like a balance between what can we sell now and what can we sell in the future.
I think it's a very good comment, and I mean fully agree. And it's also good that you mentioned that it also, I mean, first of all, you can say that you're not a medical device and you can develop it to that, and then of course the next step is to do it as a class 1 medical device, and as long as you don't touch some of the areas where you actually need a notified body, you of course need to have everything in place for the CE mark, but to not have to pursue external what do you call it, review of all your documents, I think it's a lot better. So if I could choose, I think that I mean, if you can manage with a class 1 medical device, that is of course something to be preferred compared to a class 2 or class 3. But then, as everyone saw with Millennium, it might be difficult to actually know if know what to pursue if you actually have the functionality that would require a higher class certification.
Yeah, and my learning from this is that that's very much interpretation of the regulation. So we've had consultants that say that you should absolutely go for class 2, even though you could be a class 1, because if you do the work, you can. It's better to do the whole work from the beginning. But I feel that there's, as you say, a big difference between class 1 and class 2 because of the notified body. So I also think, at least for us, that we would in that case aim for class 1, and that the actual, I mean, it's very high risks that you need to have in your product to be a class 2, I think. But that's very specific, I think, for which kind of service or product you have.
Yeah, no, I mean, we fully agree. And one thing that we haven't mentioned that much is of course that if you plan on CE marking your product as a class 1 or a class 2 or class 3, one requirement that you have is of course that you need to show that you've been working in your system for at least a couple of years, because there's a circular way of addressing things, and to show that you actually have the process for actually continuously developing the system and continuously developing the results. And therefore, if you have the opportunity and you apply for some Vinnova or MedTech for Health financing, I think that a very good thing to start with is to ensure that you have a simple quality management system and that you start working with it, because it's also something that we have seen is actually very much improving our product. Because not all of these processes are just challenging. They are also developed because they have been shown to actually have a good effect. And the more we work in our system, the more we realize that at least many of the documents that are part of it is actually something good for the company, rather than just some tedious work.
Yeah.
But that is only in the systems where it actually looks as your day-to-day business. If there's a lot of templates and stuff like that, then I know for a fact that it can't be managed, and you will just feel that it's a steep uphill battle every time you open it.
Yeah, and I think I missed what kind of system you used. If you had a name for your quality management system.
Yeah, we don't have a name for it, I guess.
No.
It's
It's
certified.
your own.
It's our own developed.
Yeah. Okay.
So we developed it ourselves, and then of course you can use it, and we have users that have bought it from us that use it in all different type of platforms. But from the beginning, it's all the processes and all the process documentation is that is required to be in one type of form, and that is done in PDFs or Word documents. But then we do all our day-to-day monitoring, which is also required by the system in Jira, Figma, and GitHub.
Yeah, right.
And that also, that if you have a digital solution, this is not my expertise, it's our CTO's, but it's a very good traceability between the input that our salespeople get from the customers. So we can follow that comment all the way to what branch or what snippet of code and what version it's actually launched in. So it's a very good traceability, and that is of course something that the notified body and the regulatory agencies really like.
Yeah.
But it's also been a bit of a challenge because all notified bodies are not accustomed to the digital processes. So you have to show them that it digital wise can be done in the same quality as you could with pen and paper and the physical signature, so to say. But it's also an industry that is under a bit of transformation, I think.
But you would recommend setting something custom up instead of using like a SaaS QMS kind of thing?
For me, I mean, I would be open to both. I just think that the thing that you want to ensure is that if you go with a SaaS solution, ensure that it's a plug and play version that they can almost guarantee that it's ISO 13485 certified even when you start, because a lot of these solutions, they offer this, but then you have to write your policies or processes yourself in a lot of cases, and then it will take time, and you will need external audits where they go through the process and say, okay, you lack this, you lack that. And the thing that I would like, and why we also sell our system, is that we believe that, I mean, if we from the beginning could just go and buy a system that we knew were actually already certified, I think that's a huge time saver, and it also allows you to focus on the stuff that is unfortunately the most important in a startup, which is of course the business and the product development and in the end the sales. And I think it is a difficult industry, because if you focus too much on the regulatory path, it will be hard to actually ensure that you survive as a company.
Yeah. Thank you.
So true. Yeah. So we're going to wrap up here. We're getting to the end. So I'm very used to that Jonas Matting has some kind of question, but I haven't heard anything from him yet. So he might be on the road or something else. But do you have any final comments, Jonas, from your Digital Arena perspective and what you are working with?
No, actually not. I think it was a great session, great presentation, and there's a lot of information here for us to continue to work with at the Digital Well Arena. I mean, we're trying to support companies in the regulatory landscape, and we're trying to understand what kind of services we should develop to startups. For example, the question from Maria was really great. So where do we begin? Then when it starts to become more expert services, then maybe you can go to more consultants and experts. But we need to help startup with the first steps. I think it's really important in Digital Arena that we do that. So, and I got some ideas from Zacharias. So thank you for that. And yes, I'm traveling, so no picture at the moment. So yeah, thank you, Zacharias. It was really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonas, and thank you everybody for joining. I totally agree. We need to have the whole from the start of the journey as a strategy, and then even to the long way to the experts and regulatory bodies and so on in the end. So there's a lot of things to cover in this regulatory journey, right, Marie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I agree, and I just want to in the end now also say that I mean, if you have any more questions, it's a very difficult topic to cover in 1 hour, especially as all products are different. So if you have questions, I mean, feel free. I mean, I showed my email and my phone number, but I guess that you, Stefan, also can share it afterwards. So happy to support you and to guide you the best way I can, and we can also bring in our or my colleague to do the same within the development field. So don't be a stranger to reaching out, because I think that's the best way to actually also know how you take the next steps. I can't support with everything, but I can also give you tips and tricks on how to move forward.
Wow, that's so valuable. Thank you very much for doing that. Yeah. I think there's a great opportunity for many companies here. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for today and today's session. Looking forward to talking to everybody here again more about these issues and opportunities. So, and thank you again, Zacharias, for taking the time to be with us here today. Amazing work that you've done. We're so impressed, and we hope to see Seawand explode into the public markets, both in Sweden and Norway and Europe, and perhaps also in the States in the future, and so on. So that would be amazing. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody, and see you soon again. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.